Starline presents The Brass Facts.
Hello and welcome to Starline's The Brass Facts. I'm Hunter Pilot, and today Robert, Barbara, and Robert Hayden Jr. share with us the Starline story. Sit back and enjoy.
One of the previous owners of Sierra Bullets, which I was running at the time, I was the president of Sierra Bullets, and Frank Snow, who was one of the previous owners, he had retired, and his wife had passed away, and he wasn't ready to retire. And he and I became very good friends during that transition period when they sold the company, when they hired me to run the company, and we became very good friends. And we were at a ball game, watching the Dodgers play, and we were talking about business and things. And he said, we ought to do something together. And I said, let's go into the case business. We incorporated in 1976. We brought another gentleman into the business. His name was Paul Nip. He was a tool and die maker, and we had acquaintance with Paul by making tools for Sierra. And so he was going to make our tools, and he was going to do that side of the business. Frank was a genius at making equipment, designing equipment that would do this kind of function. And so he was going to work on the equipment, and I was going to promote the sales of the product. Well, I couldn't do a lot except on weekends and nights because I was still managing Sierra Bullets at the time. And so that's how we got started. So what really got Starline off the ground was that Federal Cartridge got a contract from the FBI for 10 millimeter. And we started making 10 millimeter brass for Federal. And that was some big numbers. We were making, we were shipping them probably 750,000 cases a month. And so that's when we really got rolled and started making money. We could no longer satisfy the drive for the business through custom headstands. We had to start marketing our own headstand. And it took us a while. It probably took us a better part of 10 years for people to really recognize Starline as a case manufacturer. I come up with the idea to move Sierra first. That was my first. That's what I did for a living at that point in time. And it was kind of funny. When I made that decision in about we made that decision in about 88, I think it was. So we started finding a site. Well, I used to come through Sedalia all the time, going to the Lake of the Ozarks for vacation and stuff. And I always liked the town of Sedalia. So I picked out Sedalia as a place I'd like to have this business. And move Sierra, okay? And so that's when we started putting together a plan to move Sierra. And we got with ACI, and we built, we got a custom building built, and we moved Sierra in 1990, the fall of 1990. We actually moved in October of 90. And was not thinking about Starline at that point moving. In fact, when I left California, Barb was still in California, okay? She was mayor of Downey, okay, at the time. She had her politics going. I'd put Bobby working in the business. He'd come out of high school and did not want to go to college. So I put him in the business, and he did every nasty job that you could do in this business. I mean, he was wash and polish operator. I remember down at Quonset Hut down there in Covina, California, summertime, it'd be 120 degrees inside that building. We had fans blowing on everybody. But, he learned to do everything from the ground floor up.
We were created from a group of gentlemen that were very, very knowledgeable as far as tool and die makers. And I had the opportunity to learn from those people. They taught me my craft, basically. And I was very fortunate in the fact that I had those gentlemen to learn from. They taught me to over-design the equipment, build it better than it needs to be, to keep it simple, and then to always keep track of the quality, be able to check the quality in the case before it goes and is mixed and goes to the next operation. And so taking that background, I was able to, as we've evolved, continue to apply that philosophy to the everyday-to-day operation, and keeping things simple and yet over-designing them and making them probably more precise or a little bit better than they need to be in order to hold the tolerances that we have to hold, and to have these machines run day in and day out like they do, and be able to maintain the caliber of the quality that we're used to providing.
And I told both of them, I said, look, I'm leaving. I'm going to Missouri, okay? You guys are going to have to run a business. And I said, I'll give you a year, okay? And Bobby, but his age was at that time, but he was still a young boy, okay? In my mind, okay, young man. And Barb hadn't been involved in business too much at that point in time, okay? I said, you two are going to have to run a business. And if you can't make it go, or you can't do it, if you can't handle it, then we'll put it up in the market and sell it. Bye, I'm going to Missouri, okay? And that's exactly how it went down.
He told us when he left town and came back to Sedalia with Sierra that we either had to sink or swim. And if we couldn't make it work, then we'd just sell the business. So Bobby and I made a pact that it will work. And it did, and it's worked very well. So we're pretty proud of what we've accomplished in his absence. So I think he thought we couldn't do it, but we surprised him. So.
And so I got back here, started the Sierra Bullet business up, got it running, rolling good, And I noticed that the 5 acres next door here was for sale. And so I said, I'm doing this. I've just built one building, just built one company, got it going good. And I said, we might as well just do the same thing and bring Starline back here.
So they came in, and as we were producing the last cases, they were taking the machinery offline and rigging it and shipping it back here. Bobby came back here to receive the equipment as it came in, and Ann and I stayed in California and closed down the Covina plant. But it was a very interesting process.
We had to get a niche in the marketplace, okay? And this Bobby did an excellent job. If we were out and competing on 9mm and 45 and some of the standard brass against Remington and Federal and Winchester, it's hard to compete with them because they make so much of it at one time. It's hard to compete with that. But we decided we were going to make a lot of different types of old line cartridge cases. And if you look at our product line, we've got about 75 cases in our line. And we've got a lot of the stuff that's cartridge cases that you couldn't buy anyplace. People have guns, and they wanted to shoot these guns. Pistols and old-time buffalo rifles like the 45-70, 45-90, 45-120, the Quigley gun, you've seen the Quigley movie. All those kind of old firearms, and so we decided that we're going to build the cases to support those.
We are a smaller company, which allows us to react to customers' requests and feedback from the shooting community, so we can fill niches, cowboy shooting or old vintage firearms. We've also been able to work with new companies who develop cutting edge calibers. So it's been kind of, I guess really being a smaller company that can react quickly to shooters' needs, listening to the feedback, and then applying what you're hearing to the product and to the process is probably one of the biggest ways that Starline has been able to be innovative and fill niches and gaps that some of the bigger companies probably can't get to as quickly as we can. I believe our product to be better or as good as anybody else's out there, for the simple fact that our process is based on quality first. And so it may take us a little longer to produce X amount of parts. However, the quality processes and the checks that we perform after each operation are instrumental in making the quality of our product as good as it can be.
In 2012, I received notification from the governor's office that Starline was being honored, and there was a luncheon in Jeff City that we needed to go to, so we did. And they presented us with the best minority woman-owned business of the year in 2012. So I was really, really tickled with that. That meant a lot to all of us. And so they recognized that, we'd come here, done a good job, and become a good part of the community and strong, viable business. So that was a real plus for us to have received that recognition.
Where we expect to be or hope to be in the next 10 years is anybody's guess. If this market continues to grow and remain a similar growth pattern, we are just going to be doing more of the same. There's no point in, if I can't fulfill the requirements of the customers that I have with the current product, then we'll just be working on doing more of the same as good as we can. If things change and slow down, we have several new calibers that we're looking at. They're new to us, but have been in existence a long time. And then also some different projects, whether it be rifle cartridges or just adding to our cowboy line, or whatever the case may be, depending on the feedback we have from our customers and what direction the marketplace takes us. So we are going to continue at this point to just increase our production capabilities and to wait and see what the future brings, I guess.
We hope you enjoyed the history of Starline. For more information on our quality American-made brass, check us out online at starlinebrass.com.